Good morning, friends and colleagues from throughout the state of Idaho. My name is Wendy Sechrist, and I'm the Executive Director of the Idaho Workforce Development Council.
Good morning. I'm Rod Grammer, President and CEO of Idaho Business for Education. Welcome to the third annual Governor's Conference on the Age of Agility, the Future of Work.
For those of you who've attended our last two conferences, you'll recognize that this one looks a little bit different than those that we held in 2018 and 2019. The most obvious difference is that we can't be together in person.
But that doesn't mean we're not here in spirit. We are all here for the same purpose, and that is to discover how education and business can be more agile in accomplishing our shared goal of creating the workforce that we need for the future and setting our students up for success in school, work, and life.
The theme of this conference is agility, and in these unprecedented times, when COVID-19 virus has upended how we educate and work, it's especially important for us to be agile.
Today's event will present insights and perspectives on business and education, and policy leaders will be here to talk about the future of work and what it means for the connection between employers and education, helping us crowdsource strategies and solutions to take action within our state.
Just as with our previous conferences, we have a collection of exceptional speakers today who will inspire us to think creatively about how we can rebound from these challenging times and innovate to educate, to create an even stronger Idaho economy.
We especially want to thank Idaho Public TV for making this possible by using their studio in this age of the COVID-19. We have one housekeeping item, and that is to tell you how we hope to answer as many questions today as possible from the audience. If you are in Zoom, please use the Q&A function. If you are on Facebook Live, please use the chat function to send in your questions. Both of these will be moderated, and we will get to your questions, as many of your questions as we possibly can.
Before we begin, we'd like to thank our partners for today's conference: the Idaho State Board of Education, the Idaho Department of Labor, the Idaho Department of Commerce, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, the Division of Career and Technical Education, the State Department of Education, the Department of Corrections, the Idaho STEM Action Center, the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, and of course, Idaho Public Television.
Once again, thank you for joining us today for the third annual Age of Agility Conference. And now, Trinh Clark will introduce our next speaker, our first speaker, the governor of our state.
You know, there's a certain risk in being introduced by someone who has known you for a very long time. And I have to say, even before I knew the young wool grower leader in the state of Idaho by the name of Brad Little, I actually knew the family, because one of the heroes of my youth was State Senator Dave Little, who was a person who identified for me that it was in fact possible to integrate deep personal integrity with political leadership, something that we unfortunately find rare these days, but he managed to do it, and I found out later that he managed to also teach it as a value to his sons. And let me give you an example of how that applies to today's conference. The idea that we should value all the pathways to a career is a talking point that every staff person hands to any political leader anywhere in the world of any party today. For Brad Little, that is not a talking point. The idea that we should value learning, acquired skills, and experience to enhance our ability to become productive citizens and to become self-supporting has been a cause that he has advocated for. He has espoused, he has sponsored, he has worked hard for. I have even seen him working into the late hours of the night to accomplish this as a personal value of his. He sees that the need to establish a workforce and educational process that delivers success as something that he has fought for in the Emmett schools all the way up to our state university system, and he's done it long before it was ever a talking point for politicians. That's the very reason that I happen to believe that in the future we will look back at Brad Little and we will call him among our greatest education governors. Please join me in welcoming as our keynote speaker here our Chief Executive of the state of Idaho, Governor Brad Little.
Thank you, Trent. That was very kind. Thank you all for allowing me to participate in this all-virtual conference on the future of workforce. My goal has been and always will be to make Idaho a place where we have the best opportunity to thrive and where our children select and choose to stay here, and for those that have left to choose to return. In the middle of a global pandemic, my goal has remained the same, and it has become even more important today. COVID-19 has presented enormous challenges for educators, students, parents, business leaders, employees, and government. Businesses and Idaho's workforce have had to shift abruptly to major changes in work and home life since March. The way we live and work will be changed forever by this pandemic. It's fitting that the name of this event is the Age of Agility, because it's so important right now for all of us to remain flexible, look for new ways to innovate, and respond to challenges thoughtfully as they arise. The unfortunate consequences of schools suddenly shifting to remote learning is that the achievement gap between the haves and the have-not widens. We are maintaining our focus on the student achievement, student academic achievement, and finding ways to address the gap going forward, so that we do not have a generation of students with an asterisk next to their name because they were in school during the pandemic. The business community demonstrated agility once again this year and helped address the achievement gap when they stepped up to help bridge the digital divide, and our students and teachers now have better access to more technology and resources than ever before. Today, you will hear from presenters on how we can be agile in responding to change and intentionally shape our future. One of the ways we're moving forward and intentionally shaping our future is through the launch of a new effort to scale youth apprenticeships in Idaho. We are focused on strengthening the connection between an education and a career. Youth apprenticeship offer a post-secondary pathway that allows students to earn while they learn. The Workforce Development Council and Idaho Business for Education teamed up with business leaders such as Idaho Forest Group, McCain Foods, High Desert Milk, Perfect Plumbing and Heating, and many other employees. These employers are partnering with schools such as the Dennis Technical Center, Weiser High School, Sandpoint High School, and that's just a fraction of what is going on, to create opportunities for high schools, juniors and seniors to begin their post-secondary path before they graduate. It might sound a little strange to be starting this new initiative in the middle of a pandemic, but the reality is that Idaho employers desperately need skilled employees across the board in healthcare, cybersecurity, the trades, manufacturing, transportation, and construction, just to name a few. We surveyed Idaho's employers over the summer and found that 78% of employers have tried to hire someone since March. Our employment rate is the third lowest in the country at 4.2%. And while our businesses have suffered greatly over the past few months, there is optimism, with nearly 60% indicating they will continue to hire over the next 18 months. The types of skills they are looking for, both technical and professional. In fact, trustworthiness, effective communication, and problem solving were the top professional skills across industries, and those were skills that are always learned by doing. The better we align employers and education, the more opportunity we create for our younger generation to stay here and raise our families. Idaho has always changed. Before the pandemic, Idaho was changing at a meteoric rate with population, incomes, and employment needs. And there is some indication that the pandemic is pushing more people from out of state, actually there's a lot of indications, to relocate for work, to retire, and take advantage of our high quality of life. As we face more and more changes, education has to stay at the forefront of priorities, especially literacy. Our most economically challenged and socially challenged students are in the achievement gap, and the pandemic has exacerbated that gap. We want to move them from being recipients of government spending to becoming economic contributors and part of a much needed workforce. Increasing resources for literacy is our best chance to do that. You can expect me to continue my push for literacy, especially in the age of COVID. We also need students to be college and career ready. Today's graduates will have an average of 7 career changes. They need skills to be lifelong learners. And in rural Idaho, the most susceptible part of the talent shortage, we need businesses to continue to play a proactive role in reaching into schools and partnering to create effective CTE programs. I'm excited to see how our new youth apprenticeship program will facilitate more of that kind of activity. I want to thank the Workforce Development Council, Department of Labor, Idaho Business for Education, IACI, and many others for coming up with solutions to our ever-changing workforce needs in Idaho. We all share a common understanding of what is needed to prepare our students to meet the needs of business. The next generation will have to rely on problem solving and adapting more than any other generation before it, and it's our job to prepare them. I need all of you to keep the momentum going. Now is the time to reaffirm our commitment to invest and coordinate in our efforts in this age of agility. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Can you take a few questions?
I will try.
Okay, great. I get to ask you the questions, so thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So the theme of this conference is the age of agility, the future of work, and how do you think that the pandemic is going to change the way we educate kids and also the way that employers interact with education?
Well, it already has. The good work that you've done, that the state board's done, that our local school districts have done. We were working on remote delivery of education. This just put that project on steroids. Connectivity, devices, software, hardware, learning management systems, all of those were things that we were working on, but they've just really accelerated. We've been fortunate to get some of the federal CARES dollars. We deployed that into schools to have more connectivity. Simultaneously, we put a lot of broadband in communities all over Idaho. That remote delivery is going to be part of the solution, even when the pandemic is over, to try and address that achievement gap.
So how have you seen government and schools and even the business community change during this pandemic time?
Well, Idaho is a very diverse state, and those solutions, our job, whether it be IBE or the department, the State Board of Education or the department, is to give those local communities the resources and connect the employers with the students, and to make that happen organically, so that an employer that has a need for a certain skill has that dialogue with educators and has the resources to where they can inspire those kids to start working harder at both junior high and high school to grow into either the traditional college route or into what we see as a very rapidly expanding CTE opportunity.
Yeah. Do you see, you kind of touched on this in your opening remarks, do you see a lot of people moving to Idaho right now to work here remotely, since a lot of people are working from home anyway in the larger cities?
Well, we're not just the fastest growing state. We're the fastest growing state by maybe a bigger margin than a lot of my fellow Idahoans would like to see. but it's the opportunities that are here. It's the fact that we've allowed these solutions to grow in these areas, and whether it be just a great place to live or a place for an existing Idaho business, for a new business to invest capital. Some of the disruptions that have taken place in other areas have highlighted what we always knew we had here in Idaho, but we have to be able to provide the educational superstructure, to provide the opportunities to continue to go on as this growth comes into Idaho and manage it to the best degree we can.
So one of the things that the Department of Commerce has been working on is broadband. Getting broadband out to our rural communities especially, is that one of the key obstacles to this remote work and remote learning, making sure that that broadband highway is out there?
No question at all. We had already had a broadband task force that made a report. The Department of Commerce has stood up an office. We've got this revenue stream that's been coming in to help schools, and then we had the CARES dollar where we're putting it out to the communities. One of the little problems, not a little problem, that CARES dollars need to be spent by the end of December. So some of those projects have been a little more expensive we'd like to see, but what we're really going to learn from this is where our weak links in. What neighborhoods, what communities, what small towns, when we get all of this done, are we still going to have areas we need to work? And I'm very committed to work with the industry, to work with the local communities, to find out where those weak links are and address them going forward.
So you've said prior and in your opening remarks, your real concern is about the vulnerable students, the ones that are at the highest risk. They're already in an achievement gap. So what can we do during this very difficult time to try to at least hold that, if not even close that achievement gap in the months ahead?
Well, people ask me about what I've been doing during the pandemic, and it's managing the pandemic. What would I have been doing if I wasn't? And one of the things I wanted to do was spend a lot of time all over Idaho looking at our literacy initiative, because we've had Governor Otter started it, and we've extended it and really increased it in the last couple of years. And we need to find what resources we need to do all the way down to these really young kids in these communities, whether it be in the daycare, whether it be resources for parents, whether it be the pre-K programs that schools are putting together. Obviously, what we do to expand kindergarten, we have got to get these kids all reading proficiently at the end of the third grade, and we need to find out what impediments there are there. But those kids not being in school is a big impediment. But you know, I've been to probably 20 schools in the last 2 months, and those, particularly those grade schools, they know what the problem is, and they're really addressing it. And it's heartwarming to see the dedication of those professionals in those classrooms to get all those kids up to the reading level they need to be.
There are national studies, and even here in Idaho, reports that kindergarten enrollment is down. Are you concerned that a lot of kids are being held back from kindergarten, and that could hurt them as they move into first grade?
Well, of course, a lot of that problem is the daycare problem, and the fact that they're concerned about their problem, but we got to put more resources into the area, and we have into daycare. But those kids, and they, there's lots of parents that their kids don't even go to kindergarten, and their kids are greatly prepared when they get into the first grade. But that is not, those are, no offense, but those aren't the kids I'm worried about. It's those other kids that are back, and we need to do all we can, whether it's resources into daycare, pre-K, kindergarten, whatever it is, we need to find them, and we need to give their parents the tools and the resources and the support to do that. Because I tell those parents of the kids that are fully prepared that child that's going to be next to them in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade that is not reading proficiently is going to drag their kids back all through the K-12 career. So it's in everybody's best interest to help those kids in that gap to get up to that level, so it adds trajectory and volume to what takes place after the 3rd grade.
So today we're going to talk a lot about youth apprenticeships. We're going to talk about this new program that IBE and the Workforce Development Council are going to launch. So what do you think that's going to do for our workforce pipeline and for students, preparing students for the workplace? Is this a pretty significant program?
It is, but it hooks on to one of the initiatives that the governor and the legislature have done, and that's career counselors. Because if we can, we need to reach down to these kids in junior high school and inspire them to be interested. And apprenticeships have proven for years, but we're looking at it through a little bit of a different lens. Is as soon as they show an interest, if we can connect them with a business to where they get to go out and do and learn and touch, we're basically replacing some of the things that existed in Idaho before my generation, before we had some of the other things we did, where almost all kids worked in junior high and high school. That has been, and there's nothing wrong with all those extracurricular activities, but that getting up, going to work, learning, going to work, we have got to replace that, and we got to add more opportunities. And businesses are screaming for it. Businesses are saying we got to have people that show up, that can work in teams, that can solve problems, all those critical skills that they need, and apprenticeships will do that.
So basically what you're saying is this not only teaches them job skills, but it teaches them life skills. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the life skills or the soft skills are, this goes back to some of the great leaders that I've known, business leaders, entrepreneurs that started companies from nothing here in Idaho, and they says you send me somebody that can figure out how to get something done. I don't care what their degree's in, and can solve problems, manage people, work in teams, and I'll teach them the intricacies of what's important in my business. We got to have doctors and lawyers and professionals and all those other things, but so many of the weak links in our labor pipeline are those soft skills that an apprenticeship will significantly assist with.
So you have been a longtime champion of what we call our 60% goal for the state. In fact, you sponsored a resolution in the legislature to have the legislature officially adopt that. And so the goal, as you know, is to have 60% of our 25, 34-year-olds hold a post-secondary credential by 2025. That can be any kind of workforce ready credential. Are you concerned that this pandemic is going to kind of put a little break on that, or do you think we can hit that goal?
Absolutely. I mean, people being out of work is never a good thing, particularly if they're out of work for a long time, because some of those soft skills dull, and that's a problem. We're very lucky in Idaho. We had the third best unemployment before the pandemic. We got the third best now. I still got 2 states I'm really trying to get ahead of, but they need to be working. But that 60% is a benchmark. My goal is that everybody in Idaho has a satisfying job and can comfortably plan for retirement. And whether that's being a PhD nuclear science, a doctor, a lawyer, or somebody that works at one of our great Idaho companies and can continue to advance up and comfortably live and comfortably plan for retirement, but that 60% is one of the benchmarks we need to get to that point.
So it's October 2021. 1 year from now, we're sitting in the Idaho Public TV studios, or maybe this time we'll be out.
Oh, there might be people.
Yeah, there might be. Yeah, there are people, Governor. We have about 400, by the way, registered for this. But yeah, we're in the convention center, and there's 500 people in the audience. What do you want to say to them, and what do you think education and the economy and work will look like at that time?
Well, we know. I'll always go back to literacy. We have, and as you well know, Rod, we have now got a good way of measuring literacy. So as we move that literacy rate up, and then literacy is one level, and then college and career ready are the other ones. I want there to be more kids enrolling in college, and I want the business community to when I travel around the state to say, you know, these kids are better prepared, they're better for our businesses, their satisfaction level is higher. That's what will be success. But it's going to look different in literally all 44 counties.
Well, Governor, thank you for being with
My
us today.
pleasure.
It's a great way to open our conference having you here, and we really appreciate you being here today.
Well, next year I want to see everybody live.
Well, we hope that will happen.
All right. Thank you.